Jones. Here we go. We did it. We are up 2-0 in the series against Florida. Holy shit. This is a hell of a moment. I really didn't think that they would come out and actually get the win tonight. I thought that we would get the split. I think we all knew that Stolars wasn't playing. We had Wall in. That was kind of a question. How was that going to play out? Turns out he played pretty good. Core 4 looked great. A lot of great points in this game, thank God. First one that I can really think of, and I didn't even have a chance to watch the first half of the game because I was at my own hockey. But the half that I did see, I will say, is the core 4 played great. Even though Matthews isn't scoring, you got Nylander, who seems to be a really good clutch game guy, which was great. Mitch finally gets a goal, game-winning goal too, after his son was born, so congrats to him. That was really nice to see. And John Tavares steady again, which was really nice. So, you know what? Really happy with how they played tonight. It was spectacular, to be honest with you. Pretty nervous in the end there. That was a tight game for sure. So for some reason, nobody can seem to hit an empty net. I don't understand that. They seem to ice it just like every 6 or 7 seconds, but it is what it is. They're just trying to kill the clock. So I get that, but actually really happy with how tonight went. Very relieving. At least haven't been up 2-0 in back-to-back series since 63. So does that mean anything? Absolutely not. But at least it's nice to see because we all thought going into this, we know how good Florida is. As we said, there's after the Ottawa series, there's the monster lurking in the next series. And I don't know what it is with Florida right now. Either they've played a lot of hockey over the past couple of years, or just Bobrovsky hasn't been good. Tkachuk doesn't seem to have the fire, but they just don't look like the usual Florida Panthers that we're used to seeing, right? I mean, they demolished Tampa super quick. And you kind of thought going into this, it would just be an absolute war. And it really hasn't been. Now, the Leafs have definitely let in more goals than, typically we would like for a game, but they are responding quickly. I think the last game it was like 19 seconds between goals there. Tonight, 16 seconds. They really don't seem to emotionally get down on themselves, which was a huge factor in previous series. So having that new aspect to their game and a little more just a solid emotional game really gives it a different look. Again, I'm not going to get overly happy. As Kobe says, job's not done. And it's not even close to being done. But this is the furthest really any of us in Gen Z have ever seen the Leafs get close to the cup like this. I mean, we're up 2 games in the second round. That is an impressive feat. And again, nowhere near the finals, but at least it's nice to see. I can really be happy about that. One negative thing I would say, though, about the game that I seem to keep seeing with the Leafs is whenever they get boxed in their own zone, they really seem to have poor man-to-man coverage. Now, I know mainly it's because they're tired at the end of a shift. It's been, they're gasping for air and whatnot. But, it's almost like basketball in a sense. Like if it's 5-on-5, everybody just has to take a man. They usually play like a box system where they got the 4 guys sort of in the slot there, and then they have one guy out high, kind of going between both D more or less. And I don't understand that, mainly just because it's going to go back out to the D, so you got to post your guys up higher. So, just my small opinion on how they do that coverage, because it seems a lot of the time they just end up chasing. They end up watching where the puck goes, and they're a second late. They lose their man-to-man battle, and then they get a dangerous chance on net or something like that, and it's frustrating to see, because if they just were one step ahead, they could get that board battle, potentially get it out, and the play would be nullified. But they're just always seem to be a step late sometimes. Especially at the end of shifts. It's not bad all the time. Obviously, they can break it out pretty well. So that's not a huge concern, but it is something they kind of have to tighten up in future games in this series here. Goaltending. Wall was great. let in a couple that they weren't stinkers, but they weren't great either. I think that you definitely need a little more shot blocking or coverage in front of him to stop those shots from coming through. But he played well. Came up with a huge save there in the third. Just stretched out, got the toe on it. Thank God, to keep it a close game there. But I think you got to go for Wall again for Game 3. I mean, honestly, I think Stolar is going to be out for quite a long time. Seeing how he was in the news and whatnot, I don't think you're going to put him back in. Potentially even for the rest of this series. So I think you're going to stick with Wall for now. See how it goes. You got basically 2 wins now. So keep going with that momentum. Hold your head high because you know what, you're up 2-0 against the former Stanley Cup champions. So that's something that the Leafs can really be proud of. That as a fan, I'm proud of, and I hope the rest of you are too. Matthews again, he's playing well. He's playing with some really good intensity. He's getting good man-to-man coverage. Sometimes he's still on the puck and whatnot, which is nice. But for when it comes to his shooting and his kind of play around the net, it just doesn't seem to be as on point as it usually is. We've all seen him score 69 goals, and he's scored, like almost at least 40 a season. This was his lowest goal total that he's had in his career, and he's filling that void up with other elements of his play, which is really nice. But I don't know if it's an injury or the hand or what it is, but he seems to be shooting just a little bit too quickly. He's almost rushing it in a sense. Now again, obviously he's one of the best goal scorers on the planet, so I'm not here to criticize it, but he just needs to take an extra second and just pick his spots a little bit more. In the previous game, he had a wide open net that Nye shoveled him the pass, and he just sailed it like 8 feet over the net. And that's typically a play that we would see Auston Matthews score on, at least hit the net. And a couple times tonight too, he seemed to kind of be not fumbling the puck, but it seemed a little rushed. It didn't seem as calm as it usually does when he has the puck. So if you get him producing and he starts putting in a couple goals along with the other guys who are also scoring well this series, I think this could be another level for the team. I think they could play better. They could produce more. Now, again, is Bobrovsky going to be as kind of, as bad as he has been for the last 2 games? Probably not. He's going to come out like Allmark in the last series and probably steal a couple for him. I hope they go down to Florida and, they win both. A split would be nice, but I wouldn't be surprised if Florida takes both of them. And then, you're back in Toronto is 2-2. But you know what? If you can go down to Tampa and even, Florida, and even just get a split there, that's huge. Then you're up 3-1 coming back home. So it's looking pretty positive right now. Let's tamper down our excitement just a little bit, but at least just for this game, this is really incredible to see. So that's really nice and relieving to see that. Pacioretty, going into this series, I do think you had to leave him in, and he's producing. He's a totally different player than what we've usually seen him be. Now, this year he has sort of been consistent, but he has been out a lot too. But especially in the playoffs, he's throwing hits. He's feeling the body. He's playing like a whole different player, like a top 6 player. And he's seemingly turned himself into a role now that is basically a role player. I mean, he's got 2 goals. He seems to be feeling the puck really well. And he brings a really good intensity to the game that the Leafs need. Some emotional just firepower, which is really nice. They have been lacking that. Matthews, Marner, they don't necessarily get too excited. Nylander's just, I don't know if he's high all the time or what it is, but he just doesn't seem to show much emotion. But you see it tonight after the goal. He's fired up, and he gets the boys fired up too, which is nice. They really need that. So hopefully he keeps that intensity up for the rest of the series and series to come. That's pretty much all that I really have on this game. Just let's just keep looking forward to the next game, and I hope it goes well. As always, cheers.